I'd like to see changed.
Yeah, explain the Tipperary Club Championship is an unenviable task, I would say. So that's Owen Kelly talking on Tipperary. Jamesie, just the other the other team from Munster that are gone. Waterford, valiant against Cork, very close towards the end. Tommy Ryan scored one of the great goals. Always unbelievable.
You tweeted too early watching the Sunday game.
Yeah, because obviously I hadn't seen the game and I was tweeting a load of love for Tommy Ryan, and then he ends up getting blocked down.
He was brilliant before that, now, in fairness.
He was, and he followed me on Twitter afterwards as well, so Tommy... Thanks for that. But just a word on Derek McGrath, Jamesie. What do you think his legacy is there?
I think, Shane, the key thing is, did he leave the position in a better, or Waterford in a better place than when he took on the job? And I think the answer to that question is definitely yes. I was there in Ennis in 2014 when they came up in the league and Clare absolutely filleted them. Shane O'Donnell and Conor McGrath, these guys were, operating in space. The Waterford half-backs were a mile from the full-back line. And, I can't remember what the score was at half-time, but it was a sobering experience. And I think Wexford knocked them out of the championship in the qualifier. So, you're in a pretty dark place and you're questioning yourself and questioning, the responsibility, I suppose, you have to the supporters, to the players and all that. And, they respond by coming back and winning the league in 2015. Probably should have won the league in 2016 in an All-Ireland semi-final, narrowly beaten, probably had Kilkenny on the rack and didn't see it out. Back in the All-Ireland semi-final the following year, again, very close to winning it, and they're obviously in the final last year. So, they've had a lot of big days. Okay, the silverware hasn't been there, but I think he's got the best out of that bunch of Waterford players. And I think, I heard some stuff that, he was a failure and this kind of stuff during the week and hadn't delivered on silverware. But not everybody wins the All-Ireland. And, you could argue that there's more talent in the Tipperary dressing room and the Galway dressing room. And they've won All-Ireland to show for the same time frame. Clare have nothing to show for us, was that 5-year period that Derek was in charge. Cork have a Munster title. So I think, look at, the way the players spoke about him, I think he did a seriously good job, and obviously this year wasn't the way he would have wanted it to end. But the injuries just absolutely crippled him, and people forget they were 1-4 to 3 points up in Ennis against Clare. De Burke went down. Kevin Moran had a great chance shortly after that, should have put them 7 clear, and it would have been a totally different ball game. Instead, John Conlon goes up the other end and I think was pulled down for the penalty. It's back to a point, and then they just start dropping like flies. They lost obviously Darragh Fies, and Noel Connors went off at half time. Brick obviously wasn't fit, and they didn't have Gleeson or Pádraig Mahoney. So, I think in hindsight, I think he did a good job. I think he got the best out of the players that he available to him. And I suppose the respect that the Waterford players had for him, there was no better illustration of that than Thurles last Sunday, when there was nothing to play for. They could easily have gone on the beer for the week, and yet the way, I suppose, they honoured him and I suppose the way he spoke about protecting the integrity of the competition, and I suppose the way they honoured Brick, was unbelievable, because they could have won that match. And don't forget as well, they were absolutely robbed, Shane, by that decision in Limerick,
100%.
Which would have meant that it was all on the line last Sunday. So I suppose sometimes too you need that bit of luck, and he certainly didn't have it in 2018.
And when you consider as well, Michael, that this is a guy who came in 2014, and Jamesie referenced that game against Clare. I think Clare scored 5-22, and I remember
4-18 or something ridiculous scored after 25 minutes or something.
And then, after the game, I was still writing my article probably an hour after the game, and I could hear shouts coming up through the concrete in the stand. They were hating the players, I presume, and trying to get them going. And when you consider that, and the fact that they cut a lot of the experienced players from the panel at the end of 2014, they went with the sweeper. You constantly had the legendary names from a decade before chipping away, and Derek would talk about how he didn't feel that he had it in the bank as a hurler. He had Dan Shanahan beside him as hurler of the year from 2007, which was brilliant for him, but he probably would have had self-doubts that way. For him to come through all of those obstacles that I've just listed out and produce those massive days and get Waterford to an All-Ireland final, I would see that as a massive success.
Unbelievable, yeah. I think it's just headline grabbing to say that he was a failure in any way. You cannot say that. And what Jamesie said there is someone else is going to benefit from what he did, 100%.
Maybe Sean Power.
Possibly, if they get the right setup in place, someone else will definitely benefit. I have no doubt in saying that at all. I've never seen as much, maybe love is the wrong word to use, but Jesus, the players, the admiration they have for him. He was, as Noel McGrath said, or Noel Connor said, he was more than a manager, and he clearly was. And he's created, the word culture is probably overused, but he's they looked like such a happy bunch, we'll say, and someone else would definitely benefit from what he did. And there was so many things pulling against them, as you say, people knocking the sweeper system, people, you know, wanting them to go back playing orthodox style. They win the under 21 Ireland in 16 and they want to say, why can't we just play like that? Why can't we just go 15 on 15? But he got the best out of the group of players that he had. They're going to be at a different stage next year or the year after, and someone else I think might be able to bring a bit further. But let's not forget, beating 3 points in an All-Ireland final, Conor Gleeson probably, I think, their best defender, not on the field as well. Like, they were very close to winning All-Ireland last year.
Shane Bennett going off
Shane Bennett, exactly.
Tom Devine not
and that forced their hand because Morris had to come on early. And this year, it's so disappointing, I think, for anyone watching hurling, just to see the chain of events that happened for him. And just, you say about the kind of rollicking that he gave down in Clare that day. I was at the game in Cork this year where they beat Cork in the league, and they're kind of nearly kind of half kind of gave himself a bit of life in the league, and he came in and he was very calm with us, and I was waiting to try and grab a player after, and like literally if the walls could talk in there, like the place was absolutely hopping. It's just like, it was funny to see, you could hear it all, and it's funny to see him being so calm and everything with the media, and then he could just be this different person. And anybody that would question whether players would be able to turn on that kind of style and he obviously had a couple of different personalities when he had to, and it's going to be sad to see him go, but I'd be amazed from the way he was talking if he's not back with Waterford in the near future, but maybe with someone else even before that.
Okay, so just to finish up on Munster then, I think the match programmes have been very interesting to look at over the past few weeks, because the players that have been featured have often been asked to pick their dream 7-a-side team. I think the standout one had to come from Peter Duggan. You saw that one.
That's right.
Go on, tell us what it is.
No, it was a very original one. He just went for Tony Kelly in all 7 positions, so he can obviously play in the goals as well.
We've got Dan Morrissey's one coming up on the screen here. I can't remember. Oh, there it is. Owen Kelly in the goals, who of course played, like we just had on there, he played minor in goals for Tipperary, or he was a sub-keeper in 2001 for Tipperary. For the seniors, JJ Delaney, not bad in full-back, Brian Lohan, Tony Brown, Kieran Carey, a legend of course, Ollie Moore, ball winner up there, and John Milan. I think we've got David Reedy as well coming up as well. Here he is now, yeah. Barry Nugent in goals, not sure who that is. David Fitzgerald, who I presume he's talking about the current wing back for the Clare team. He's well able to move, as is Killian Buckley, Ronan Maher, Jamie Barron, Shane O'Donnell and Shane Bennett.
Barry Nugent was a corner forward. He actually marked him back in the day. I don't know how he ended up in the goals there from Clare, yeah. But,
well able to move from the goals.
Club mate, lads. Club mate.
Oh, is he? Right, okay. Does he deserve to be in there?
No comment.
So we've the three of us have all picked a 7-a-side team, a dream team, with the one caveat that we had to put ourselves into it.
And I will say that was the caveat, because there's no way I would have myself in my own team, but go on.
Well, look, to be fair, you have played inter-county, so you can justify it somewhat. I don't think I can at all. So we're going to get the first one up on screen here, and I'd say that'll be Verney's one. I'm looking forward to seeing this now and watch you justify it and us critique it. Go ahead, Verney, take it from there.
I have Owen Murphy in the goals because he's obviously flexible. He can come out he can play anywhere. He can play any of the 6 outfield positions as well as in goals. He's going to ping the puck outs as well.
To you?
Hopefully, yeah, not to me. I'm going to have him to have one of those little things in his back pocket, like Anna Kournikova used to have at Wimbledon, where she'd pull out another ball straight away when the ball goes wide. He'd definitely have one of them as well. The full back line was, I wouldn't have myself there. I would have had Conor Gleeson, but I think you need a sticky corner back to take out the opposition's best forward. David Mack, brilliant hurler, very mobile as well, and could play in any of those positions. The midfield, it's disappointing that Jamie Barron has gone out of the championship already, because everybody loves watching Jamie Barron. Massive energy there with him and Fitzgibbon. Fitzgibbon is playing some stuff. He was brilliant again the other night for the Cork under 21s. And then up front, you just have 2 absolutely lethal finishers. I'd hate to go near Joe on a 7-a-side pitch, or if he ever played out in America for summer, he'd just be an absolute disaster. Like, once he gets the ball, he's going to have even more space in Sevens game. Imagine the damage he could do, and Hoggy would be the same as well. Like, imagine the scores those 2 boys have had.
And you've played 7-a-side in the Croke Sevens, have you, as well?
Yeah, it's a different type of game completely. Yeah, you have to kind of play tactical enough. You can't really just go man on man. We went man on man the first day against, who was it? Baha from Galway. And Joe Gantley. Joe Gantley got about 6 goals off me, I'd say. He was isolated one-on-one, and it's just a disaster. We pulled a man back then, kind of played 3 defenders, and when we attacked, we all attacked together, and we actually beat Aaron Channer's club and Aaron Cunningham,
Wolf
Tones, yeah. We beat them and they ended up getting the semi-final, and then we were goose for the last match, and Clontarf, absolutely, I think it was Clontarf, one of those teams that absolutely annihilated us anyway. But it's a different type of game completely, and just on my team I think you need a lot of mobility, particularly
to make up for you in the corner.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not moving from that corner.
James, any thoughts on his team? Anyone you'd think there's question marks over?
Apart from Verney himself, no. Sure. Listen, I mean, you could pick any of those guys. Plenty of legs in the team, and as you said, two seriously good finishers up front.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll bring up my team there next as well, and of course, because I'm in it, it's an absolute disgrace of a team. It's really going to be let down. So I put Austin Gleeson in the goals, with the idea that we can score from anywhere here. So Gleeson he's going to come out on a burst. I'll step back into goals. Hopefully no one will take a shot because I'll make an absolute mess of it. Owen O'Donnell beside me, cornerback. Now, and a lot of the Dublin lads have told me that he is a nightmare to mark, and he gave Conor Whelan a fair go of it in the last round of the Leinster. Midfield, Jamie Barron. I think the way he helped set up Tommy Ryan's goal the other day, like he was crowded by about 5 or 6 guys on the Cork on the sideline by Cork players. Still somehow managed to keep the ball going. I don't know how. If we get the team back up there again, Tony Kelly. I mean, if Peter Duggan is going to go with 7 Tony Kellys, I'm going to take at least one. Up front, 2 lefties, TJ Reid and Conor Whelan. That team is just not going to be beaten, Mick.
I'd fancy my team against it, to be honest with you. I think I'd go corner forward on you if our two teams played that.
A combined age of the guts of 70, I'd imagine. That's it.
I'm a bit younger than you now, in fairness.
Only a year or two. You don't look it though. Jamesy, what do you make of my team?
Yeah, can't argue with it. Although I don't know, have you enough legs in your full forward line?
I would say I have more legs in the full forward line than yours. You've got Canning and Horgan. I think Conor Whelan would be impossible to stop. I think he's like the hurling version of Con O'Callaghan. And then TJ Reid beside him. TJ Reid, he'd win a ball anywhere. He'd win in a phone box.
I was trying to think of this pace. I had pace all around him, and maybe not as much in the full forward line. It was Conor Whelan or Canning for me, but Hoggy's not exactly slow now, in fairness, and Joe's not slow once he gets going either. No,
hard to stop. I think both teams would be hard to stop. Obviously mine would win, as you say. Jamesy, we're going to get your team up lastly here. Explain it to us there, Jamesy.
Yeah, I can't see the screen now, lads, so I'm going this from memory. Again, I've got Owen Murphy in goals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, again, I think Michael's on the same page as me. I think he's the best goalie in the country. He'll ping it, he'll get up the field as well. He's played out the field, so he can come forward and someone else can step back. Dahi Burke and Pádraig Walsh. I think Dahi Burke is probably the one guy I'd least like to spend 70 championship minutes marking in the current game. So,
he'd soften your cough, wouldn't he?
He'd soften any of the opposition's cough as well. Yeah. so he's there in the full back line. Pádraig Walsh. Again, it was either him or David Mack, I suppose, and again, could either of them, but plenty of legs, the ability to get forward, score, get back. Midfield, Jamie Barron, we're all on the same page there, lads.
Yeah.
Who did I go for midfield with?
David Burke beside him. So you went with last year's All-Stars.
I reckon Burke would be able to ping the passes. He'd be able to hit that 70-80 yard pass in over the cornerback's head into your hand.
You've John McGrath and Tony Kelly up front.
Line, John McGrath and Tony Kelly, yeah. I should probably have to be there somewhere, and McGrath is just a lethal finisher. But you could have gone with any of the forward lines that you picked. But I just think my team has plenty of legs, and Kelly just give it to McGrath and he'll be put it away.
Yeah, well, the one thing you've omitted here is yourself, and you're the only one of us that could actually legitimately have a claim to be on one of these teams. So who are you dropping for yourself? You have to go in there in one of those positions. Come on now.
Jeez, I suppose I'll drop Kelly, lads. I'll substitute one clear man for another, right?
Like for like.
Yeah, we could always put Kelly to midfield and get rid of David Burke. So, we'll maybe go with that actually. I want Kelly in the team, so David Burke has to go.
Right.
I tell you what, I'm not sure if 7-side would suit Dahi Burke. Genuinely.
Yeah.
I think he needs. He hasn't been not exposed, but there hasn't been low ball has not went in near his man yet this year. Probably because Gerard Mack slips back on the 45. I don't know if that would suit him, and I think, just going on to a broader topic, that if teams want to try and get at Galway, bringing Gerard away from the centre and somehow getting low ball inside Dahi Burke. Maybe if Richie Hogan was back to himself, that sort of player could do a bit of damage on him. That's just something I think myself. I'm not sure if 7-a-side would suit him. He'd kill you, all right, but I'm not sure if it would suit him like that. But I just think that's one of the few ways you could actually get at Galway.
I'd say Jamesie's pace back in the day would have killed a few people as well. Jamesie, did you play 7-a-side, and what do you think is the most crucial factor for a team to be successful there?
We played in '96. Clare were obviously gone out of the championship early, so we went up. I think, I think we had 8 players, and I think the brother-in-law who played minor with us in 1990 had picked up a hurling in about 6 years. He'd travelled in that. We literally, I think, roped him in to be I think he might have been the 8th player. I think we had only 8 players or something. We hadn't a clue. But we'd Shawnee was playing. I think David Hoy would have hurled with Clare. Andrew Whelan was a really, really good pacey player. But we got to the semi-final and got absolutely annihilated, I think, by Crokes. But we hadn't a bull's notion how to play it. And certainly, anything you weren't supposed to do, we probably did. But it was an eye-opening experience, and it was a great weekend. Really enjoyed it.
So just to finish up then, Jamesie, which of our teams do you think is the best?
Definitely mine, lads.
Will you go air that?
Definitely.
Actually, we forgot to mention as well, Michael he absolutely insisted that we put up an all-time Offaly 7-a-side team, which is going to come up here. And James, you can comment off the back of it, but Mick, first of all, explain this to us, because it's quite indulgent of you, I must say.
Don't bother, yeah. Damien Martin's obviously the first ever Offaly All-Star, probably the best goalkeeper we've ever had, I'd say. Brian Whelan, Jamesy knows all about him, the best hurler I've ever seen. Martin Hannamy is the toughest cornerback I've ever seen. There will not be too many goals scored there. Rory Hannafy, if he'd been on a better Offaly team, he would have just been he was the only player, one of the only players I felt when I was playing this lad, he would be a certainty on the Kilkenny team, and that's the Kilkenny team, alongside Johnny Pilkington. So Johnny would kind of sit back and kind of do his thing, and Rory would be up and down. Johnny Dooley and his nephew Shane beside him, I always said that if Shane was on that 94-98 team, he would have absolutely cleaned up, because he would have had workers around him to throw him out ball. I think he would have cleaned up. He would have been hitting 1-3, 1-4 a game. So it's maybe a little alternative. I would love to have John try on it, but I'm not sure if he would have had the legs for 7s. He would have had the skill, definitely, but I'm not sure if he would have had the legs.
Jamesy, is there anyone he's left out there that you think should be making the 7?
Yeah, John Troy was class. I'm not sure if Hennamy would have had the legs for the 7s either, but as Verney said, he'd kill you. Asher, look at this, and Whelan, Johnny Dooley. Yeah, you couldn't argue with most of those guys, and look at those guys, regardless of whether it was 7s, 11s, or 15s, just pure hurlers. Hurling coming out of every pore. So yeah, plenty of class on that side.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Jamesy. We'll chat to you again soon.